What's up, guys? It's Denise Salcedo. Welcome back to the channel. I am very excited to introduce to you my guest for today, Matt Cardona. What's up, Matt?
How's it going? Just finished a workout in the gym. Just ate some rice and a protein shake. Pet my cats and my dogs, and now I'm doing this.
I love it. I love that your schedule already involves, petting your pets, getting the workout in. You're very busy, Matt, and that's kind of what, I want to jump into in this interview, that you guys recently announced, yourself and Brian Myers, you guys are launching the Major Pod Network and just kind of expanding on what you guys already do in the podcast content creation space. So kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, long story short, I believe it was August of 2018, Brian and I started the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. Basically because we loved wrestling figures. We never grew out of it. And it's something we talked about on a daily basis. And for about a year, maybe longer than a year, I was pressing him like, hey, let's do this podcast about wrestling figures. Listen, it won't be that much work, half hour, 45 minutes a week. And I finally broke him down. And we call him bare minimum Brian. He really is. So we finally did it. We did the pilot. And then it just started taking off. And we even said in the beginning, like, oh, yeah, we're not going to have long episodes. We're not going to have different social media accounts. And now 2 years later, we have all the social media. We have Twitch, YouTube. We have our own action figures. We have our own merch. We do live shows. And now we announced the Major Pod Network, which is 6 podcasts. So it's pretty crazy. This wasn't the master plan. It just kind of happened organically. And all thanks to our fans. We call them the Major Marks. But because of them, that they're making this happen.
That's really cool. So you talk about the fact that you didn't see this coming whatsoever. So now kind of seeing where because you were on the forefront of creating an online presence, really one of the first wrestlers to really get that going and start building that up. And to now see where you have gotten to this point, it kind of seems like you're able to do anything. So with that being said, how does it feel knowing that you've come this far and that you've built this brand? It's so hard to do and you did it. So kind of tell us about that.
Yeah, like you said earlier, like back in the day, 2011, I started Z True Long Island Story, this YouTube show, and I wasn't the first person on social media. I wasn't the first person to have a YouTube show or a web show, but I think I was the first person to successfully take Matt Cardona, the real life person, and Zack Ryder, the wrestling character, and kind of like merge them together. Because like what other TV show is like the actor tweeting in character? It doesn't happen, so that's what kind of Twitter was. It was like, I'm gonna beat you up on Monday Night Raw, blah blah blah. So I kind of incorporated my real life into it. And yes, I was Zack Ryder on the show, but I was bringing in my dad, my friends, stuff like that. And I think people really connected with that. And all these years later, listen, I'm a creative person. I just want a creative outlet. And that's what this Major Pod Network is. The Major Wrestling Figure Podcast has been. And it's all about like just taking a chance on myself. And if I fail, that's fine. But at least like I have the opportunity to fail. Trust me, some things we've done with the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast hasn't been a success, but at least we're trying and there's no handcuffs. And if we fail, we fail.
I love that you say that there's no handcuffs, because really in anything in life, you never know if you're going to succeed unless you actually do it. So let's get into the nitty gritty details of the Major Pod Network. So I know you guys have the 6 podcasts. Tell us a little bit about the new ones that you guys are incorporating to what you already have.
Yeah. So there's the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, which is just me and Brian talking about wrestling figures. It started off as a half-hour thing. I think it's like sometimes 3 hours. That's every week. Then we have something we did for the past 6 months called the Figure Wrestling Federation. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, where we kind of like fantasy book the Attitude Era of wrestling, and then we go back and do like figure photography for it. So we did 6 months, and it was on the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast feed. Now it's on its own feed, so people can like binge listen, so re-listen or listen to the first time. And there will be a season 2. We have the Game Marks podcast, which is about wrestling video games. Off the Hop Rope, which it's kind of a weird concept, but I love it. It's like mixing beer and matches, so it's like you got to listen to it. It's very interesting concept. And then Brian Myers has Extreme Conversations, and it's like a deep dive into ECW and particular events or particular things that happen in ECW. And he's really getting interviews with the people. So it's not like an interview with Tommy Dreamer. It's like, he'll do like Heat Wave 98 and he'll get Dreamer, Nova, Francine, whoever, and they'll talk about that event. So it's a cool concept. And then I have MC True Long Island Story, which is I guess the sequel to Z True Long Island Story. It's 10 years later, and we're doing a deep dive into each episode, and not just like, the episode, but what was going on in my life and in WWE and the wrestling business at that time. So it's crazy that 10 years has passed. And I thought about doing like our Z True Long Island Story reunion, like YouTube video, and just dropping it on the 10-year anniversary. But then our producer, Smart Mark Sterling, said, why don't we do like a podcast, because there's a couple podcasts out, like Victory, the podcast. They go into Entourage episode by episode. So we're kind of ripping off that idea and see if it works. So we're excited for it.
When I was reading like the summaries of each podcast, right, that was one of the ones that really intrigued me, because I feel like you could really dive into like the time, what you were at in that place in your career. And so like that for me sounds very, very interesting, and just kind of seeing like all your guys' ideas. It's really fun to sort of see that you guys got everything sort of covered. Like you got an idea for everything. And
right.
that's pretty cool. I like that. And
that's really, it's just like an idea right now and a blueprint. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen, especially with this MC True Long Island Story. There's 100 episodes, so it's going to be at least 100 episode podcast series. But I haven't watched these back in almost, I remember when I edited episode 100, because I did all that stuff by myself. I watched 1 through 99 before I made 100. I haven't watched them since, so that was like a long, long time ago. And I just watched episode 1 again just to see if there was enough like meat on the bone for this series. And there definitely is, but it's going to be, I'm kind of nervous to watch them all back, because I've changed so much as a person, as a wrestler. So even like episode 1, it was like cringeworthy for me. So it's going to be interesting. And it's like, this is kind of like my book. It's my story. I'm not writing a book. Maybe I will write a book after this. My memory is shot. So maybe watching these will remind me some things. And I still have like my old computers that have like the unedited footage. I still have emails that have some like interesting things. So it's going to be, listen, it's not a bitter, like anti-WWE podcast at all. It's fun. It's going to be a trip down memory lane, but some weird things are going to, pop up. And if they do, I'm going to tell the story, at least my version of it.
I was going to ask you, because I feel like anytime anybody goes back, and even if it's a picture they see of themselves from back in the day, or it's even worse, even a video, because you're like sort of seeing who you were back then. And right. It could be like, obviously when you yourself seeing yourself is going to be different from somebody else seeing you. So it could be a little nerve wracking. You're like, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why was I acting this way? It could be kind of embarrassing,
Oh, absolutely. And it's gonna get really interesting, because I know for a fact there's gonna be some weird stuff in there that I'm like, oh my God, why did I say that? Or why did I do that? Or why did I have those frosted tips in my hair? It's going to be a weird time.
I think that's going to be the fun part. Just kind of seeing also too, like what you're like, oh God, I wish I didn't do that back then,
Yeah. And I'm going to call myself out on everything, the good and the bad.
Amazing. So now, okay, this is the thing though, when it comes to wrestling podcasting, and there is so many people out there creating videos, whether it be people like me, whether it be, wrestlers, so many people in this space. So how do you and Brian sort of bring this different approach to get people to say like, these are my guys, these are the guys that I'm tuning into each and every single week. Like I'm going to come and check out their podcast.
Well, yeah, like you said, there are so many wrestling podcasts, and that's why Brian didn't want to do it at first. But the wrestling figure world, it's such like a niche of a niche of a niche. Like you need to like wrestling, want to listen to wrestling podcasts. Then you need to like wrestling figures enough to listen to a wrestling figure podcast. So it's like, if you listen, you're like deep. And that's why the podcast has been so successful, because the fans are so rabid and so dedicated. And then the other things that we're doing with the ECW and the MC True Long Island Story and the video game stuff, that's not necessarily for wrestling figure fans. So maybe we'll get some other fans involved. So I'm just excited to see. Maybe the whole thing will flop. Who knows? But at least we're trying, right? Like we can't fire ourselves. We're our own boss.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it all. And I think that's the beauty too of like the digital space and where everything is moving now, that you would be surprised at some of the crazy ideas people can come up with that end up working. And you're like, wow, I didn't realize that people were interested in this. And that's the cool thing too, because then viewers are like, oh my God, like I get to talk about wrestling and action figures. And there's somebody who has, as much passion as I do as this person. So now, Let's talk about the content creation aspect of this, because a lot of people think that, making videos, creating podcasts is as easy as one, two, three. And it kind of isn't, because it's easy to turn on a video camera and press record, but there is a whole lot more that goes into that. So tell us about your favorite parts of all of this process, and then also some of the challenges that you guys might face.
Well, my favorite part is definitely having the creative outlet, right? That was with Z Trolling Island Story. I did everything myself. I filmed it, I wrote it, I edited it, and you go back, like, it's not well done, but the content is there. And I think right now content is the most important. Of course, like production and making it look cool is nice, but the content is what's key, because there's so much out there. So you need content that will resonate with people, connect with people. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work, because like you said, like, there's so much out there. So it's such a great opportunity, because this is free. You can create all this stuff for free, put it on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, for free, but you're also competing with so many other people. So it's like a double-edged sword, but the best part about it is being able to just try things and try what you're passionate about. That's what, I think we've proven with this Wrestling Figure podcast. Like, it's wild to me that sometimes I'm taking pictures of wrestling figures in my office, and my fiance is like, "What are you doing?" I'm working, babe. And I really am. Like, this is my job. So it's cool. And I think if, especially with this MC Trolling Island Story, where we'll do a deep dive into me just wanting to try something and what it turned into. If I can inspire just one person to take a chance on themselves and bet on themselves, then all this is worth it,
I know. And it's so funny too, the fact that you mentioned that you're taking a picture of an action figure, and believe it or not, it really is for work. That is so cool.
The other day I had to, it's cold here in Florida. This is horrible to say, but it was for this Figure Wrestling Federation, one of the matches took place in a floating ring. So in theory, I had to get in my pool, do like a floating ring match just to take the pictures. And like Chelsea was like snapping photos of me. I'm like, babe, I'm working here,
I would have never pictured that.
Yeah, it's pretty really ridiculous.
Cool. That's really awesome, though. I love the fact that, you guys are just going out there and just putting the stuff out. It's really cool. And it's obviously resonating with people, because you have built a brand now. And like I said, it really is hard to, just build something out of nothing, because that's really what it is. And even the fact, I love the fact that you're you mentioned the fact that you write, you edit, you produce, you create all the content. And I think so many people don't always see all of the work that goes into that. People always are like, oh, like, there's the quote of, oh, little YouTubers here and there, but it takes so much to put out a video. It's like the term YouTuber almost doesn't have enough respect to it.
Yeah, and luckily we have a producer, Smart Mark Sterling. He is like the unsung hero. He like edits most, if not all of the videos. Sometimes maybe I'll do like on iMovie, just clip together some of the, like, this is what I want, and then he makes it look nice. But he edits the pod. Then like I do all the social media. Then we have a social media guy who makes like graphics. Then we have another this guy TTD Wrestling does all our design. So there's a lot that goes into it. And now I have to control 3 different social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram, because I have the Major Pod Network, Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, and me. So it's a lot of work. It's very, very time consuming, especially if it's like last week when we were announcing the network. I was on my phone constantly posting from all these different accounts.
Oh my God. Yes. I feel you on that. And I can only imagine just having to stay on top of all of that, but that's cool. So, you, in terms of what you would like, what would be the goal, the vision of this network for you? What would be like the end, like the dream vision, I guess you can say, of where you would like this to go?
Yeah. So like with the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, like we said, it just started off as a 30-minute show. Now, like we make our own wrestling figures. I mean, it's incredible. We have our own live shows. I would love for this MC Trolling Island Story. Like, I honestly don't know where can it go? I don't know. Like maybe it leads to a reunion episode, a reunion series. I mean, I think like long-term, we'd love to add some other podcasts to it. And we've already had people like asking, like, how can I be on this? How can I be on this? And I tell them all the same thing, like, give us a proven concept. It doesn't necessarily mean like your numbers have to be through the roof, right? But just that you're passionate about it, like you're entertaining, you have the content, and then we'll work on it. You know what I'm saying? Because like you don't have to bring us like millions of downloads. No, just prove that like you're gonna put in the work, you're gonna put in like the time, and you're passionate about it. And then we'll think about bringing you on, because we don't have a game plan really to answer your question. Like we started this network, but now that you ask me, I don't know what the game plan is.
You're like, "Wait, I probably got to sit down and think
Yeah,
about
we should probably think about this. We should have a team meeting later.
Exactly. So now I'm going to sort of switch gears a little bit because, Matt, I feel, ever since you got released, I almost feel like you have this newfound freedom to really go out and just do whatever it is that you want. And I know that people on the online wrestling community are very quick to be like, where's he going to sign? Where's he going to sign? Because that's the go-to when whenever somebody leaves, where is he going to sign? But correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of have a feeling that you are going a different direction in terms of, like, we saw you appear on AEW, we saw you appear on Impact Wrestling. What can you tell us about the direction that you're heading into in terms of wrestling and, also the podcasting world all in one?
Yeah. So, like on paper, 2020 for me was a horrible year. I mean, I got released from my dream job, this global pandemic. I had to cancel my wedding, but in reality, it was one of, if not the best years of my life. It was awesome to have this freedom. And listen, I am so grateful for my time in WWE. I mean, I'm not like ignorant. Without WWE, the major wrestling favorite podcast wouldn't be successful. Nobody would want to listen to it. So I get it, right? And I'm very grateful for everything that I got in WWE. But it was time to go, and they made that decision for me. Which, hey, cool. But on that day, I was getting texts, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 blah. I was so happy. I was already on Pro Wrestling Tees making my own page with new merch. I'm like, this is what I need. I need to be creative. And not that like, I had handcuffs on me in WWE, but like, you can't go on WWE Shop and make your own shirt. If they don't want to make you a shirt, you can't make a shirt. But now I can do whatever I want. And you know what? If the shirt sells 1 or 100 or 1,000, who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the best part.
You had really good sales for that 24-hour period. Didn't you get like the #1 spot for that as well?
I think it was pretty high up. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, it's the coolest thing to be able to just to try. And if of course I want to be successful in everything I do, but that's not life. It's not reality. You're going to fail, but that's how you learn. That's how you grow. So it's just been so fun because I signed with WWE when I was 20 years old. So 2006, got released in 2020. That's a long time of working for the same place, doing the same thing. So now, like, no, I don't want to just jump and like sign this, 3-year deal with somebody. I don't. I want to like explore my options. I want to have fun. For a couple months, I didn't wrestle at all. Like I was just doing the podcast stuff, and it was just so fun and so time consuming. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like I haven't had a match since September. It's January. I should probably get back to work. But like, I was just so caught up in everything we were doing. It's not like I'm sitting home 7 days a week. Oh, what should I do today? Every day I'm doing something, like from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed, for something for the podcast or something else. So it's not like I have all this like free time where I'm just bored and like getting fat or something, like
yes.
I'm keeping busy.
Exactly. And that's why I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? I feel like he might, and this is obviously just an outsider's perspective. I was like, I feel like, he might not going to settle on somebody because there really is so many options out there. And after being signed with a company for so long, like you said, it really is different to have all these options and keep busy. And there are so many people that we're seeing, whether, are pursuing different routes, just everything that, for example, that the Good Brothers have done. Like they've been able to build something of their own too. Zelina Vega, Thea, like she's doing her own thing too now. So it's pretty cool to see all of the different people sort of find their passion.
Yeah. And the best part about it is that you can make money doing it. Like all the different things we do for the podcast, there's not one particular thing that makes all this money. But I say crumbs make crumb cake. You make a little here, a little there. You got the Twitch, the YouTube, the ads, the merch, the live show. It all kind of adds up. So at the end of the day, it's like, this is my job, but it doesn't feel like work, because I love it.
Exactly. That's the best thing to do. They say find a job that doesn't feel like it's actually work or whatever.
I mean, it's a lot of work. It really is. And some days I'm like, oh man, this is, like especially on like some podcast nights where we have to record 2 podcasts at once. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I got to do this figure photography for the show we just did. But is that really like, what am I complaining about? Right?
Yeah, it's work, but it's fun work. There you
go. For sure.
So I do also want to circle back to speaking of AEW and Impact Wrestling. I kind of want to know what it felt like for you to go out and just work wrestle, be in a different environment with guys that you necessarily may or may haven't had an opportunity to work with in the past. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, both AEW and Impact was such a great experience. It was a little nerve-wracking, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm going both places. It was like the new kid in school, meeting all these new people. And also, I say always ready. It's the hashtag. It's in my music, on my merch and stuff like that. But I had to prove, okay, you say you're always ready. Well, here you go. Especially with the Impact thing, because I hadn't wrestled since September, and I get a call on a Friday. Hey, do you want to be on the pay-per-view tomorrow? I'm like, well, shit. I better be ready. The AEW, at least I knew for a couple months that's where I was going. So I was like training for it, preparing myself. This Impact thing, I just had to be ready. And luckily, the always ready thing is legit.
So were you a little bit taken aback by that call from Impact, or was it kind of like, did you see it coming?
I did not. So we had been in talk for past couple of months, but nothing like concrete, casual talk. So I was kind of surprised by it because I wasn't expecting to, fly out the next day and be on pay-per-view. That wasn't in my plans when I woke up Friday morning, but it was a good surprise.
It was such a fun surprise too, especially for the viewers watching. I was one of those viewers watching, and I don't think, when you came out, everybody was like, "Oh, okay, like this is happening." Like,
I think I was too. If you look at my face, I'm like, "This is really happening." Okay.
That's really awesome. And here's the thing too, is that Impact had those closed set tapings. As somebody who's so used to getting such a, fun, loud reception from the audience, what was it like for you working these Impact tapings with the Hard to Kill without having that audience there?
Yeah, so it is a little awkward walking out with no people. But once the bell rings, I'm just so into it that I don't even there could be 100,000 people there or zero. I still work the same, so it doesn't really matter. But of course, like wrestling, you feed off that audience. So that little part, it's a huge part. But what are you gonna do? You can't not wrestle. You have to go. You have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where I'm sure if they would have told you this like 3 years ago, you'd be like, "Nah, I can't do it." But then you end up. Now we're in this situation, and I guess you're all doing it now.
Sure.
With all of the talents that right now, there's so many good talents just everywhere. I want to know, who are some of your favorites, whether it be from AEW or WWE, people that you're like, oh, I really like this person. I want to see where they're going. Who are some of the talents that you're like fond of right now?
Yeah, so I'm still a fan of everything. I still watch everything: WWE, AEW, Impact, ROH, whatever, New Japan. I love what like MJF is doing. Like this guy who Brian Myers trained. In just a couple of years, he's like one of the top guys in the business, and he's super young. He's going to be a huge star. He's already a huge star, right? And then in Impact, I had my eye on Ace Austin before I even got there. Like, oh, you're wrestling Ace Austin, and I'm like, oh, that's great, because this kid, he has it, like everyone says, the it factor. He definitely has it. So we had a like a 5-minute like sprint of a match, but I would love to work him, in a nice, long, competitive, hard hitting match.
That would be really awesome. And he was one of those people too he is one of those people too that people are always saying like, that guy has it, like you just said. And he's going to be one of the names I think in a bit people are really going to be talking about just even that much more.
100%. Like when I'm in the ring with somebody, I can tell like, all right, this guy's good. Right. And like, you can just tell like whether you have chemistry or not. And it takes time for someone to build chemistry with each other. But I just felt like we were on the same page, and like, he's someone I definitely would like to work again because I think our styles mesh well. He's a good guy. I don't know about behind the scenes, but in the ring for sure. He runs his mouth a lot, so I'm gonna have to shut him up.
That's awesome. All right. So before we jump into our final portion of the interview, I do have one last question for you. I know that 2021 still feels like a giant question mark for everyone, really. But what are some of the things that you're like, I would really like to accomplish this year? Any goals?
I think goal setting is very important. When I wake up every morning, I say the things I'm grateful for, and I say the things like I want to accomplish. And I think that just puts me in a good mental spot for the day. So some goals for sure. I think Impact is a great spot for me right now, a great opportunity. And that's, people ask like, why are you in Impact? And for an opportunity. And I said it a couple of weeks ago when I was on Impact on Access, which again, they said, hey, you're having a backstage interview. There's no script, no bullet points. They just asked me a question. I got to talk, which was kind of cool. And listen, it wasn't like an Austin 316, like groundbreaking promo or anything, but it's cool to just like speak my mind and say why I was there and speak from the heart. Like I'm not in Impact or doing anything in life to prove doubters wrong. Like, I'm just here to prove myself right, prove supporters right. And that's the goal, to make everybody who has believed in me, whether it been from the podcast or Z trolling on a story or before that, just make them proud and prove them right. And that's the goal this year, with Impact. I'm going to take this opportunity and run with it and see what happens. And would I love to be the Impact World Champion? 100%. Would I love to be the face of Impact? 100%. We'll see what happens.
I think that's awesome. And there's so much opportunity there. Like, go in there, grab it, do it all. Matt, it is now time for our lightning round game. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask you 10 random questions, and you just kind of go ahead and answer them however you please. So here we go. Are you guys ready for lightning round with Matt Cardona? I know I always, this is why I like StreamYard, because they allow you to.
StreamYard's great. We use it for Major Pod.
Yes, it's so much fun. I do wish they had a little bit more selection, though, in terms of like little graphics that you can use, but it is what it is. Here we go. Question number 1. Is there a figure that you have ever regretted buying?
Oh, okay. So this is kind of like a two-parter. So a couple months ago, I bought this this LJN. LJN is a company that was around in like the mid to late 80s who made the WWF figures. And there was this Hulk Hogan figure that never came out. It was pictured on the back of the box. It was like a Hulk Hogan and a Macho Man, and you would like squeeze their legs and their arms would raise up. It's called like some sort of like muscle grip figure. So I found the Hulk Hogan prototype, and I spent a lot of money on it, like a lot of money. Not the most I've ever spent on a figure, but the second most I've ever spent on a figure. And I got it, and I was like, oh man, like that was a lot of money. I don't know if I should have did it. But then like I call it figure fate. A couple weeks later, I found the matching Macho Man, and I got it for a steal. So in my sick mind, I kind of like evened it out and said like, well, I paid that much for both of them. So I regretted it, and then I took it back.
You know what? In this sense, buyer's remorse paid off. Yeah. Question number 2. What is your favorite animated movie?
Does Toy Story count as animated?
Yes, oh my God. So this is kind of weird. So when I was thinking of these questions for you, I was going to ask you who your favorite Toy Story character was. But then I was like, what? I was like, you know what? I'm going to change it up. I'm going to ask him favorite animated movie. But somehow I already felt Toy Story was going to be like the answer.
Yeah. And I think it's a tie, Buzz and Woody. It's a tie. I like them both. I like both, certain traits on both that I can resonate with. But yeah, I love Toy Story. It's a classic, and it's about toys. I like toys, so that works.
But in Toy Story 1, I almost feel like you kind of pick sides. Like, I felt like I was picking sides between Buzz and Woody. Were you more Buzz Woody in this sense? Because I connected more with Woody.
I was definitely more of a Woody guy. To me, it was kind of like, I liked them both. It was like WrestleMania 6, Hogan and Warrior. Who are you going to choose?
Exactly. Question number 3. What is your favorite thing about your dog?
Oh, favorite thing. He's a big boy. We just had to shave him actually because he got so like hairy and like matted, so we had to shave him down, but it's already growing back. I think that he's just so like lovable, and he's so like, I've never had a dog that you could just like get as cuddly as possible, and he just lets you. It's just so great. And he's just a great dog. I've never had a dog where you could like literally just put your face in his face and just like rub it, and he won't do anything. He won't care. Just lick you back. I love it.
He seems so comfortable. I was looking at the pictures. I was like, oh, you just feel like holding him.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Question number 4. What would you say is the most unreasonable or crazy thing you have ever done to get your hands on a collectible?
Now, I don't think this is unreasonable, but I could see other people, including my fiance. She brings it up all the time, so I know she thinks it's unreasonable. There was maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, there's this really, really rare pre-production prototype action figure that I wanted, and I was talking to the collector, and part of the deal was that I would give him a tour of my toy room in my house and make the deal like in person. So I guess that's kind of weird to let a stranger into my house, but I needed the figure, so I don't think it's unreasonable.
I feel like, you know what? I can see this on both ends because
trust me, I see it. I get a stranger, like a stranger in. He knows like where the doors are, and like he knows where the setup of the house. It's a little strange, but it was worth it for Tugboat.
That's what it was for. Awesome. Yeah. You know what? I feel like it's not that bad. I mean, in terms of like, now this person can go and like leak your information or whatever it may be. So that is the scary side of it. But I think I don't know, but that is pretty crazy. Question number 5. What's the most insane offer another collector has offered you to buy one or all your figures?
Okay, so I buy stuff for me, right? Now, do I buy certain things to flip? Do I buy certain things as an investment? Sure. But the majority of the time, I'm buying it for my collection. And this is a weird story, but I bought this prototype of LJN prototype, that the company in the 80s. They made Miss Elizabeth, but then in like, I don't know, in the factory or what, they made a couple of her where she was naked. And
Oh,
it's like really,
wow.
really weird. And I acquired it in a lot of figures. And we did a podcast like reviewing all the LJN figures. It's actually on YouTube, youtube.com/MajorPod Network. And we showed the naked Elizabeth figure, but I blurred it out like because it's still weird. Like, and I had it on display, but like in the back. So I didn't want to like, it's odd, like it's
It
a
can be
naked
a
woman.
fetish for some people.
It's weird. So like I had it, but it was like in the back. And I knew Macho Man would be pissed if I had it. So we show it on the pod and we blur it out. And somebody hit me up for it. And, said they wanted to buy it. I'm like, no, it's not for sale, not for sale. And then I said, make me an offer that I can't refuse. And they did. And then I just added a couple more thousands to it. And they said, yeah. And I sold it. I mean, I'm a toy businessman. You know what I'm saying? I'm a toy businessman.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I like that. And I didn't even know that figure existed. So that's pretty
right.
awesome.
There's a couple of them in the world. It's not really supposed to be made, like they made it like, in the office or whatever. It's really, really weird. Really, really creepy. And I'm actually glad that I don't have it in my collection anymore.
And you made some nice profits.
Oh, yes, I did.
Question number 6. What is yours and Chelsea's favorite way to spend a date night?
Oh, depends who you're asking.
Oh, okay.
No, I think it's a tie. I love just being on the couch with the dogs or the cats and watching a movie or binge watching like a Netflix show. But I think like my perfect night, if it was up to me, it'd be like getting dressed up nice, getting a nice dinner somewhere, a couple bottles of wine, a little espresso martini, preferably at like a nice Disney hotel, getting one of those nice Disney dinners. That would be my answer.
Awesome. Question number 7. How much space does your toy collection currently take up in your home?
Okay, so I have a toy room, which is not that big. It's like a spare bedroom in the house. Like maybe it's like, I don't know, I'm not a carpenter or anything. So I don't know, like I don't even know if that's the right term, but like I don't know, 10 by 10. It's not big. So that's my toy room. Then there's some things this is my office that we're in, and it's kind of spilled over in here. But my garage, it's like a storage unit. It's insane. And then like there's a closet that has things, and like my little area that holds my air conditioner has things. So it's bad. It's bad.
So I'm thinking you can fill up an entire house here or something that you can do, like just continue filling it up.
I need to get a bigger house. It's funny. Christian, who just returned to the Royal Rumble, when he first came to this house, this was like my first ever house. This is my dream. I was like, oh, so excited. He walks in like, yeah, good little starter home, kid. And I was like so offended and so mad. But 4 years have gone by, and like he's right. Like I can't live here forever, because at the time it was just me. Now I have a fiance, I have a dog, 3 cats, and a lot of figures. So it's a little too small.
How do you keep track? Do you keep track of all your figures? Like, do you keep it like a spreadsheet or anything like?
No,
or just,
no. Like I'm pretty good. Like if you show me something or ask me about something, like 9 times out of 10, I can tell you if I have it or not. But I don't have a list or anything like that.
Like, let's say I was like, oh, like, where can you find this action figure in your collection? Like, can you easily, like, just find it from wherever you have?
Yes, because I'm pretty, in the toy room, I'm pretty organized. If it didn't make the toy room cut and it's in the garage, I could find it. It might take me a while.
Awesome. Question number 8. How much time would you say you spend?
Hours a day. A lot. Too much time. I have eBay safe searches where, like, you can type on eBay like what you're looking for, and then like it'll come up. So every day I check my saved searches. Really, they email you when something pops up, but it's like on a couple hour delay. So you have to be checking, because by the time you get the email, it could be gone if it's something really, really rare. So I check that multiple times a day. And then I'm in all these like Facebook groups and message boards. And that's where I find most of the rare stuff is in these Facebook groups, not on eBay, because people don't want to put things on eBay, because then you get the eBay seller fee, the PayPal fee, and they just take away a bunch of your profit. So it's all in these like underground groups.
I like this. I like all this like insight on it because like I
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know about this stuff. So for me,
Hmm.
it's so interesting to sort of hear of like the underground world of where
Oh,
people
it's definitely this like underground world. Yeah.
go. That's amazing. Question number 9. Aside from your own, what are some of your other favorite podcasts?
I got to shout out Victory the podcast, that Entourage podcast, which brought the idea for MC Trolling Out Story to life. I love Podcast The Ride. It's this like Disney theme park podcast. I listen to so many theme park podcasts. That's pretty much it. Like, I don't really listen to wrestling podcasts. I used to love like the Bruce Pritchard stuff like that. The Conrad stuff is great, but now like I just listen to like Disney stuff, or there's like something called like Sandcrawler podcast about Star Wars toys. Probably leaving some people out, so I'm sorry, but I do listen to a lot.
No worries. That's awesome. It's great to hear like the theme park podcast. Like I haven't given those a shot. So that's something I
Oh,
think
there's
sounds
so
very
many good
interesting.
ones. There's so many.
Awesome. Question number 10. In your opinion, what makes a figure special or unique?
Ooh, I personally like if something is hard to get, like if it's like limited edition, or if it's like short packed or something like that. Those are my favorite types of figures. Yeah, it's cool to like walk in a store and buy something, but I like things that are like super rare, whether it be like a Comic-Con exclusive or a certain exclusive to a certain store. Those are my favorite types.
Awesome. There you go. That is our wrap for our lightning round game. It was really awesome just to hear about all of this stuff. It's so entertaining to me. Matt, I want to thank you so much and I wish you so much luck on your podcast adventures and just everything that you're doing. But before we go, feel free to plug in anything that you'd like to plug in.
Oh my God, there's so much to plug. I'm gonna forget. Twitter and Instagram for me, it's at the Matt Cardona. Then on Twitter and Instagram at Major WF Pod. Download the Major Wrestling podcast. Subscribe to all the podcasts. MC True Long Island Story coming February 17th, the exact 10-year anniversary of the first Z True Long Island Story. And then the Major Pod Network. Follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Major Pod Network, and youtube.com/Major Pod Network. And then all the social media. Oh my God, there's so much stuff to plug. I need to hire somebody to just come in and like to spew everything off. But everything's been great. So just and keep watching me on Impact. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hunt down all of these links and I'm going to post them all in the
Thanks.
description box
Yeah.
so that people can go and click and follow and choose whatever they want to go ahead and follow and check out all of that stuff. So that will be on there. Matt, I want to thank you so much for doing this interview with me. It was great to chat with you. And I want to thank everyone for watching as well. Please do not forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome interviews like this. Until next time, I'm Denise Salcedo. This is Matt Cardona, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.